So just before the viral faux pas that we're all kind of going through at the moment, I went go-karting for my birthday, and I'd never been before, and I absolutely loved it. But the thing that stuck with me was how totally and completely my mind shut out everything else while I was go-karting. I was kind of locked in, and the feeling of the rest of the world falling away is kind of unusual for me, so it stood out. My mind was just too busy for anything else. And that was the thing that my little skull mush went to when I sat down to try and explain what's so good about Doom Eternal. At its best, this game demands your undivided attention and rewards you for that attention. I mean, I think if you rip out the best 5 minutes of this title, you've got maybe the most engaging section of pretty much any game in your hand. Doom Eternal is the follow-up to the beloved 2016 soft reboot, but the Doomslayer's got a big-ass man cave in the sky now, and the world's been devastated by a demon invasion that you have to beat back with your big, meaty claws. It's all brilliantly tongue-in-cheek, and they're evidently going for a John Wick sort of thing. It drops you in at the deep end and reveals the world as it goes, as opposed to like big dumps of information. There's this scene with a king early on who just says cool stuff, and I didn't really understand it, but by the end I knew a lot more about the whole world scenario and a backstory for our friend that I didn't have to read. I sort of got it through osmosis, which is appropriate because this game is sort of alarmingly wet at times. Of course, however good the story is, it's probably not why you're here. You're here for the combat. And yeah, it's bloody brilliant. Like I've mentioned, it's utterly captivating. It kind of grabs you by the face and demands you stare wistfully into its rage-filled eyes. You just don't have room for snack thoughts and stuff, which is definitely saying something for me. This comes from the fact that there are just so many fantastically designed systems going on at the same time. To start, the weapons are so satisfying to use, and all distinct in both function and feel. And they introduce a lot of extra tools too, like grenades, both of the regular and frosty flavour, a flamethrower, and just a big ass biff. Ditto on the enemies, they create this sort of swirling chaos of tactical considerations, like who to eviscerate first and where you should be moving when you do it. But most importantly, and this is where Doom Eternal distinguishes itself from its predecessors, how should you complete your demon destruction is sort of dictated to you now. You see, a lot of these enemies have prescriptive design. Think of them as diseases. If you catch the arachnotron fever, which isn't a dance thing, I promise, you need to get a sticky bomb to the turret stat. If you come down with a bad case of cybermanculus, you need to write it a script for a big thump to the chest. But let's be clear, this sort of call and response isn't all of the shooties. There are a lot of opportunities for you to get creative. For example, to defeat a pinky, you need to shoot its big backside. But I had a lot of trouble getting at that ass, so instead I would use remote detonation rockets and not explode them until they got behind the pinky boy. And then, generally speaking, even when you've dealt with all of these things like the Arachnotron's turrets, sure, he's less of a threat now, but you're still going to have to feed him a lot of bullets before he'll go down. And that means you're going to run out of ammo, which is where the fantastically fun but slightly dry in concept resource cycle comes in. I cannot think of a better scenario for the spinning plates metaphor. When you're fighting in Doom Eternal, you have 3 major resources: health, armor, and ammo. You glory kill to get health, fire throw to get armor, and chainsaw to get ammo. But getting a resource will often cost a resource, and running out of any of these things is a big hindrance. So you've got to be twirling those plates while dealing with all the other stuff I've mentioned. Luckily, you've always got the trusty new dash, which is a fantastic addition, and the boost of speed fits perfectly, particularly with the top-notch arena design. There's a definite art to these things because you have to keep moving, so they are designed like racetracks with loops to follow, but have spoking patterns to make sure you aren't stuck on a set path, and you can always dip out of traffic if you need to. They're also multi-leveled, dynamic, and have these manually triggered traps that are just so much fun to play with, and basically turn Doomslayer into Kevin from Home Alone.
Hello.
At the end of the day, when you've gotten used to it, this game is a master of getting you to play how it wants you to. And that kind of play is fast, risky, and utterly phenomenal, as is its presentation. First of all, let's just get it out of the way. I don't know what I can say about the music other than, I don't know, it fits perfectly, it's hype as hell, and yeah, just spot on. Beyond that, the presentation is also just hilarious. The glory kills are so good. Just look at this one where you kind of just bonk this dude on the noggin. This kind of thing makes sure the whole game is slapstick as opposed to something truly gruesome. It's clearly gone to the Mortal Kombat school of just make it so violent it's funny. Like, look at how surprised they all are you killed them, as though you didn't just murder hundreds of their mates before getting to them. Now, this is usually where I'd stop in my videos, but I have some things that really bother me about this game. Let's start with the slightly less egregious stuff. This game has fairly poor onboarding. Like I mentioned, there are a lot of spinning plates, mechanics to internalize, and I don't think this game is fun until you've grasped them. Now, don't get me wrong, the early stages aren't overly difficult, I was getting through them, I just wasn't having a lot of fun doing it. It felt like I was doing it wrong. Like I was dancing to the wrong beat, which is a feeling I'm quite familiar with actually. This is not a game that will unconsciously teach you. You almost need to be reviewing your performance after every fight, and you definitely need to put your ego to one side. If I ever had trouble, it was probably because I wasn't using all of the tools at my disposal. This is fine, and it may be just a necessary evil to get you up to the good stuff, but I can't help but feel that there's a smoother way to get there. What certainly isn't a necessary evil is this purple ooze shit. Basically, this stuff makes you unable to jump and slows you down to a slug's pace. Sometimes you even have to fight in it. Like, why are there sludgy sections in a game that is so interested in motion? The only way I can justify it is as a way to make you appreciate the normal reasons. And you know what, Tomb Eternal, you're not my mum. I don't need you to give me tough love. Then there's the boss fights, which can take that prescriptive design I mentioned earlier a little too far. I never felt empowered to improvise, and the one-set solution just wasn't that fun to execute. Look, I absolutely adore this game. At its best, I don't think any other shooter comes close. But you can't just take a game at its best, and that's a shame. You should 100% still play this. But I can't help but be disappointed because it's so close to maybe being the best shooter of all time.